Hey guys, welcome to the recap of my latest round at the Oskemen Open tournament. Today I played a game like Magnus Carlsen. Really, it's not an exaggeration. I played at like 95% accuracy and this was a study-like endgame. So let's dive into the game. You are going to enjoy this. So I'm playing with the black pieces against Asya Asilkhan, a young girl from Kazakhstan. Again, she's higher rated than me because all opponents in this tournament are higher rated than me. This is the tournament that I enrolled in. So we have the King's Indian defense, and she opts for the G3 fine chatto setup, a common way to counter this setup for white, which avoids heavy theory, but white doesn't have any significant advantage. It is around equal, as you may see from the eval bar. So I castle, we've developed, this is all theory, and here I like going knight c6, and there are many moves here. For example, recently I've defeated an international master who went d5, which is probably the most principled move, and then went like this, defending the pawn. Check out this game on the channel, probably my highest rated victory so far. So I have good memories of this line. My opponent in this one went for h3, which is a less ambitious setup, but it is possible. It is one of the theoretical setups, and I vaguely remembered what to do here. I remembered that I should take here, exchange the knights, and then go bishop e6. So this was in my file, and I looked through it before the game because I knew that she is playing some fine chatto setups, likes them against many openings, so I thought this is very likely. And I remembered in my file that the idea for black is to go knight d5. For example, if white does nothing, if white goes, I don't know, a3, knight d5 is thrown, hitting the queen and the c3 knight. For example, the queen, if the queen moves to, let's say, d3, then we take, and the structure for white is horrible. So this is why I remembered that to counter this threat, white usually goes queen h4 in this position instead of a3. a3, of course, is a nonsensical move. Queen h4 is the theory, and I remembered vaguely that I have to put pressure on the c4 pawn and that my position is fine. And actually, I remembered correctly. So, but instead, my opponent here thought for some time, and instead of going to h4, went to d3. And I was like, why is this move not in my file? It looks kind of natural, much more natural than going to h4. And then I realized why it's not in my file. And I found a nice tactical find. Actually, it's move 11. And I'm already winning a pawn. Queen c8, which is a fork. Because the bishop and the queen attack those two pawns, the h3 one and the c4 one. Nice geometry of the board. And she cannot defend both. If she defends one of them, then the other falls, and vice versa. So here I was really happy, and my opponent entered a deep think. She thought for like 20 minutes. She realized that she's in trouble here, and I calculated some variations while she was thinking. I thought that probably she could protect this pawn because it's close to the king and very important for king safety, but then I take this one. And there is a tactical skirmish after bishop b7. If I take, my queen loses contact with this bishop, so it's not good. But then I have takes, and my bishop, like Pac-Man, takes everything. And at the end, her rook is hanging and her bishop is hanging. So if she takes my bishop, I'll take her bishop. If she goes rook e1, then I take her bishop, and again, I'm up a pawn in an endgame. Great position for me, technically winning. So this doesn't work for her, the bishop b7 idea. So this is what I calculated, and she decided to go for knight d5 here, trading the knight and allowing me to grab the h3 pawn. She thought that h3 is less important than c4. Or now it's on d5 already, this pawn. Well, maybe she's right, but still I'm up a pawn, and it's a healthy extra pawn for black out of the opening. What else could you have wished for? But this is not the end of the game. As I said, this lasted well into the end game. It was a very tough battle and very instructive, so stay tuned. She goes bishop g5, attacking this pawn. I like her plan. She wants to develop, she wants to be active, instead of just meekly waiting for me to realize my advantage. So I trade the bishops and I go rook e8, which is the second best move in the position according to the engine. The engine prefers queen d7. I was also considering queen d7, but I thought that this queen will be more actively placed on g4. I did not want to bind the queen to the defense of e7. This is why I went rook e8, intending to go queen g4 next to activate my queen. If you remember my previous recap, in that one I was very successful in implementing the strategy of activating and centralizing my queen, and my opponent also did the same. Check it out, a very instructive endgame, even though that one I drew. So rook b1, she defends the b2 pawn because all this time it was hanging because my bishop is a monster on this diagonal. And I go queen g4. First of all, this queen attacks that bishop. And second of all, once I take the c file, I want to reroute the queen maybe to c4 to trade, because I need trades. I'm up a pawn. I need to trade pieces, go into an endgame and win the endgame, like Magnus Carlsen would do. Turns out it's a little bit more complicated than that. So I thought I should be active here, and I thought I should activate my queen, because I thought, had I been playing with the white pieces in this position, I'm down a pawn, what should I do? I should instigate. I should put pressure on the opponent's king. I would have loved to go here and create a battery down the h file and put pressure. And if black goes to h5 with the pawn, then g4 probably. Of course, it doesn't work right here, but at least with some preparation, maybe white can pretend to have an attack. And I don't want white to have any attack. So I prevent this all. I want to trade the queens. She drops back to defend the bishop, and I activate my rook. And I now want to infiltrate somehow on the c file and trade the pieces and say goodbye and sign the score sheets. But it's not that easy. She drops back with the bishop. I take in my a7 pawn, and instead of defending, I find a nice idea, queen e4 check. She blocks, and now queen c2. This zigzagging maneuver leads to the trade of queens, because she cannot avoid the trade of queens. Otherwise, e2 will fall. So she has to trade. Of course, if she trades on my terms, this is horrible for her. My rook is hungry and infiltrating, and this is a great square for it. So she doesn't allow that. She goes rook f to c1. She trades on her terms. Still, it's very fine for me. I went into an endgame. I'm still up a pawn, so it's all going smoothly. Now I want to trade the rooks. So I want to somehow trade both rooks, but I cannot do that, because if I take, I will not be able to go to c8, because the other rook will take the place of its counterpart. So I have to be patient. And I think, okay, I'll go b6. If she does nothing, like a3 now, then I can go rook here and then double up and trade and win the game. Of course, she doesn't want me to do that. She goes b4, preventing this c5 idea. By the way, here I could have also gone to c5, but in this variation, at least she has this these pawns in the center which could march down, and there is some counterplay. There's no need to do that to put my d pawn on c5. So this is why I went b6 to take with the b pawn if she takes, and then she has no powerful central pawn mess. So this is the idea. Okay, she goes b4, preventing this. And now I'm like, what is she going to do? So when you're better, and I'm much better, I'm up a pawn here. My coach, Grandmaster Farukh always keeps telling me, when you're better, think how to prevent counterplay by your opponent. Don't think about some crazy, creative, beautiful combinations that you can execute. Maybe you can, but you should prevent all counterplay, avoid all nonsense. Keep it simple, stupid is the phrase. My coach doesn't say this, but I heard Hikaru, I think, say it. It's an acronym, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So this is what I remembered here. And of course, I don't go for any counterplay. I want to avoid it, and the counterplay is b5 and rook c6, and then the other rook to c1 and some counterplay, and if I take, then there will be a powerful pawn there. So I want to avoid b5, and I go b5 myself. So it's a good move. Now, if she goes rook c6, I calculated that I can just take, go rook c8 attacking this pawn, she has to defend it, and I go bishop d4. And if she goes e3, for example, I just drop back. And my rook with my bishop jointly control the c7 square. She will never get to c7 with this pawn, and this pawn is just a weakness. I will slowly but surely go with my king, and probably like this, and grab this pawn, take it, smack on it, and my opponent will just have to watch it and say bon appetit. So this is not a good prospect for her. So she does not go for rook c6. Instead, she goes bishop e3, which is a great move. And the idea here is that if I go a6, because my pawn is now hanging, because the bishop is eyeing it. So if I go, of course, if I go rook a8, passive defense is very bad. Rook c7, infiltration, and already white is close to equalizing, even though down material, because the rook is so great on the 7th rank. So rook a8 is out of the question. And if I just go a6 to not allow the pawn to be taken, then rook c6 is much stronger. Why? Because takes, rook c8, rook c1, same position, but I now do not have bishop d4 and bishop b6 maneuver. My bishop cannot join the action, and the computer still believes I'm very much better, but this is a better version for white, and maybe white will be able to go here, and maybe white will be able to go here, and then rook c6. So for example, let's say I'm doing nothing. Okay, c7, bishop b6, bishop a5, rook c6, and then this will come next and white is winning. So of course I won't just stand idly, but this is the idea that the plan that white can implement in this position. Of course black can counteract it, but at least white has some chances with this pawn and this bishop controlling this diagonal. I did not want to allow this. So instead of a6, I decided that I can go rook c3. Initially, I considered the move rook c4, and thank God that I didn't go for rook c4. I calculated that if she takes and takes, I have rook a8. The bishop should drop back, and I take the a2 pawn, and I'm much better. This is correct. Also, if she doesn't take on c4 but just takes on a7, I just go rook a8 and again gobble up on a2. I'm much better. But then I realized with horror that she's not obliged to take on a7. She can just go b5 here in this position. And it's very unpleasant. Actually, the computer says that white is better already. It's +1. So black should be very precisely not to lose this. Wow, I didn't realize this at the time. I just realized that she has counterplay after b5. But it's so unpleasant. Because if I defend this pawn with rook a8, this rook is very passive. And she can go rook b4, the computer says, is the move. Taken here, and if I go here, rook a4, and this pawn is falling. Wow, thank God I did not choose this variation. So here I stopped to think for like 15 minutes, and I was considering a6, then I thought maybe rook c4, then I thought rook c4 takes and b5 is unpleasant. I was right, and then I saw rook c3, and it's a great move actually. So the idea is that if she takes, which she did, and takes here, again, rook a8 is here, and I'll take the a2 pawn and infiltrate and win the game. I also thought that here, after rook c3, she has a move like, for example, king f2, defending the bishop. And I thought then I'll double up on this file. And then I calculated that if she takes, I can take with the rook. Actually, the bishop also works, but I wanted to take with the rook. And again, if she takes here, I have a fork. Taking the pawn back. So I was happy about this position. What else can she do here? Nothing. So I thought rook c3 is a great move. I'm so clever. Rook c3. Wow. Greg, Magnus Gregster. But turns out I didn't see one resource that she had. She took, I took, and she went rook b3. And I completely missed that move. I was only thinking about rook c1, and if rook c1, I just take the pawn. So rook should stay guarding this pawn, and I completely forgot that rooks can go up, not just sideways. And now I realized that probably I should give up the pawn, and I thought I should be still better and probably winning, but I was unhappy about missing this resource. Turns out that it's all right, and I'm still very much better, and it's not even a mistake according to the engine. But at the time I panicked a little bit, because now initially I wanted to go back. For example, bishop f6 looks nice, and if she takes, again rook a8 wins that a2 pawn. She cannot take, but then I thought she has rook a3, but then I was like, okay, rook a3 is a good move, but what if I go rook a8? If she takes with the bishop, then of course bishop d4 wins because of the pin. And if she takes by the rook, I can take, and go bishop c3. I was calculating all this. I spent like 15 minutes on my next move, maybe even 20. So I calculated this, and then if she goes here to protect, I calculated this. And then I thought if she goes a4 here, I'll take, and I'll be the first one promoting, because once she goes here, I go bishop d4, pinning this. So let me illustrate this. Bishop d4. And if she goes b7, I'll just take, and I control the queen in square. So I calculated all this. What else did I calculate? So yeah, rook takes a7, bishop c3, and this pawn will get lost because a3 doesn't work, as I said already, bishop here, and I'll take, and a4 doesn't work because I already showed you. So I was quite confident here. I thought, okay, bishop a7 fails to bishop d4, and rook a7 fails to rook trade and bishop c3. Am I missing something here? And I'm calculating, and then I think, what if she just goes rook a6, paralyzing me? And the computer says it's not the best move. The computer finds rook a5 even better, but both moves lead to approximate equality. Rook a6, the idea is to disallow me from moving, and maybe later on she will take this pawn, or she'll go a4 and then go b5. Rook a5 is even better. Rook a5, the idea is if I go a6, a4, great move. And if I take b5, I cannot take, my rook is hanging. And already white may be playing for a win. Of course, the computer says it's equal, but only if I find the only move, rook a3, which is not obvious. All other moves lead to white having a big advantage. Wow, I didn't know. So thankfully, I saw that in this position, she's not obliged to take by the rook and by the bishop. Both moves, again, as I calculated, are okay for me, winning, but I thought that she's not obliged to take. This is not checkers, and rook a5 or rook a6 was what I saw in my calculation, works for her. Yeah, I was kind of sharp, but maybe not immediately. So I should have seen it from afar, I think, but still, I'm glad that I saw it. So spotting this, I realized that all this variation is not good for me. That if I go bishop f6, she'll go rook a3, and I will no longer play for a win, maybe even. So then I thought, okay, I have a different resource. I spent some time calculating. I even calculated, by the way, bishop f6, rook a3, e6, opening up this file to counterattack. But then I thought that, yeah, she can even take on a7, and if I take, these doubled pawns are not impressive. I'm still up a pawn, but she has this counterplay in future with the a and b pawns rolling, and I was right. The computer says it's already equal. So yeah, e6 is an interesting resource, but it doesn't work here. And then I came up with an idea of going rook c8 in this position, completely giving up the a7 pawn, because now I cannot go rook a8 to use the same idea, because my rook should stay guarding the bishop. But I don't care. She takes the a7 pawn, and I go bishop d2. This was my idea. And now the threat is stronger than in its execution. I'm still threatening rook a8, taking on a2, but I'm also threatening rook c2, infiltrating and taking some material over there. So it's unpleasant. If she drops back with the bishop, for example, to d4, rook c4, forks and wins material. If she goes rook a3 to defend, then the rook loses touch of b4, and I'll take by the bishop. So this is not good for her. If she goes rook b2, trying to defend everything, hold everything together, I have bishop c1 and rook c2, infiltrating and winning some material here. So this is what I found. I'm very glad that I've spotted this bishop d2 move. Not an obvious idea, at least to me. And it turns out that I was correct. So here she goes a3, and then from afar I calculated this sequence. Rook c3. She has to, well, I thought she has to trade. In the game, she didn't trade. I briefly calculated that if she goes here, I can just take and take the bishop, and I'm up a pawn. So I thought that probably she has to take here. But the idea for me remains the same. I want to gobble up the pawns, and it's a problem for her. For example, if she does nothing, like king f2, for example, I go here, and I want to take the pawns, and if she goes a4, we have this variation. I calculated this all. Even bishop d4. Here, bishop d4 is great. e3, bishop c5. So she will not queen because I'll take the bishop and I will queen. So this is horrible for her. Oh, of course, she cannot go b6, bishop e3 is what I calculated. a2, b6, a1 queen, b7. And unfortunately, I cannot prevent her from queening because this square is taken by the bishop, so she will queen as well next move. But I calculated all this and I decided that it should be a winning queen and bishop endgame because I'm still up a pawn and her king is horrible. Look at this king. I wanted to go for this endgame. I thought it's great for me, and actually the computer agrees. On high depth, it gives minus 2.44, so lost for white. So for example, bishop c3 is one of the moves. Queen in with check, I just go here. Now I'm threatening infiltration over here, and this resembles my yesterday's game, by the way, where I had a queen and bishop endgame also. Check it out. So she did not go for this endgame. Unfortunately, at the time I thought, okay, let's go into this endgame, it will be fun. But she went rook b2 here. And from afar, you see the arrows. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to take the pawn and the bishop. a3, a7. She takes my bishop, and I'm up a pawn in a rook endgame. Many rook endgames are drawn, but not this. It was obvious to me that this is not a draw, because takes, takes, takes. My rook is much more active than her rook. Her rook should stay guarding the weaknesses from d4 or b2, doesn't matter. For example, king f2, rook a4, rook b2 or rook d4, doesn't matter. The computer gives winning advantage to black, minus 2.7. Wow, I didn't realize that it's that much or that significant of advantage, but I wanted to slowly, methodically improve my position, walk my king, maybe go e6, create a passed pawn, maybe my king joins the rook, maybe my pawns advance, maybe I infiltrate like this, and then I'll take this pawn. So this would have been not very easy, but a technical win, I was sure. But then I thought, maybe there is an even better option. Instead of taking here and trading the bishops, maybe I can go bishop c1. And this is the best move according to the engine. I spotted it and I was like, let's do this. It's even better than a rook endgame. Because I take this pawn, and now my bishop is very important to use this weakness of hers, the b4 pawn, because her bishop cannot defend it that so easily. She cannot go here. I'll take her. If she goes here, I go rook c4, forking her, and I'll win the pawn. And my idea is to go rook c4. For example, if she does nothing, if she goes c4, g4, for example, or rook c4, and I will be up 2 pawns. That was my idea. Well, she is already low on time, but she finds a resource here. She goes bishop f2, only move to preserve the pawn, to defend it from e1. It's a passive square for the bishop, but at least she's not losing the pawn immediately. And here I calculate for some time and I decide, you know what, let's play a knight, bishop endgame. So rook c4, attacking the pawn, she has to go here, and now I go rook c1, and I force the trade of bishops, because if the rook moves, I'll take the bishop, and here I'll take with check, and I will be up 2 pawns, so she has to trade. And this I thought should be a very easy win. Turns out it's not as easy. Maybe even the rook endgame was easier. I don't know. Maybe it's very subjective. The computer already on high depth says that this is so much winning, minus 2.44 now, it says. So approximately the same ease of winning. But my opponent here started playing like, I don't know whom. Like very, very technically alert person. She went f4 to activate the king. I go bishop b2, taking this longest diagonal, because this is the diagonal that has the most squares out of the dark square diagonals, and this is the best place for the bishop, usually. So she goes king f3, I go f5, taking some space, which is useful. And the idea here is, generally, that bishop endgames are like pawn endgames. When you are up a pawn, usually it's winning. The idea is to create a passed pawn, or create 2 passed pawns. It's even better. Or to infiltrate with your king and attack jointly with your bishop some weakness and win it. So there are many ways to win such endgames, many ways to realize this advantage. I choose to form passed pawns here. So she goes g4, and I take on e4, and I go e6. My idea, actually the computer says it's not the best way to use this advantage, but Then it changes its mind and says this is minus 3.22. So one of the ways. So the idea is that now I have the D pawn that is passed, and also I will have the H pawn that is passed. And together, the two pawns will be unstoppable. But she finds some precise moves. She checks me, and she puts the king on d5, and the king is very strong here. It prevents my d pawn from moving. So here, there is only one move that is winning for black, and I find it with like 2 or 3 minutes on the clock. I go bishop f6. I realize that I have to support the advancement of my h pawn. This is the pass pawn that is not blocked, and it cannot be easily blocked here. She goes here, attacking this pawn, and of course I have to protect it. First of all, she can go f6 here and sack the f pawn for the d pawn, but unfortunately this doesn't work. I saw it. I calculated that I have bishop e7. The computer agrees, yes, because she cannot trade. Of course, the pawn endgame will be winning for me. She will go to get the h pawn. So let me just demonstrate it on the board. She will have to go to get the h pawn, but I will in this time take the b pawn and then queen. So this is easily winning. Every chess player should know the pawn endgames. So she cannot take here, and if she draws back, I'll take the b4 pawn, and it will be very easily winning because I have two passed pawns, and she cannot stop both. So okay, this is logical. So f6 is not a good move here. She decides to wait here. Bishop f4, bishop g3, bishop h2. In the meantime, I'm pushing my passed pawn. What to do here? Here I was thinking that maybe I messed it up, but then I realized I didn't. So I came up with a plan. Bishop d8. It's a very subtle plan, you will see it. So the idea is, if she does nothing, which she did in the game, waiting because she doesn't have any good ideas, if she moves the king, then I can activate my king and it will be very good for me. So of course she doesn't do this. So she goes bishop h2. The idea is to go bishop c7. And also, of course, she can never take on d6 because I have bishop e7 with the same idea here. So she doesn't take on d6, she waits. And I go bishop c7. And the idea is, if she does nothing, like bishop g3 here, for example, I go bishop b8. That was my idea. Why did I want to go bishop b8? Because if she does nothing here, like goes here, I have king e7. And when she goes king c6, my bishop is not on c8, so it's not hanging anymore. And I can go here and win this endgame. I thought it should be winning because I have two passed pawns. I'll go with my king here. She'll have to give up the bishop for the h pawn, and then I'll have a bishop and a pawn against a king and a pawn, and I'll be winning. And I evaluated this correctly. So the idea is, why did I want to go bishop b8 here? Because if I don't do that, if I go king e7 immediately, she has king c6 and it's still winning, but at least she's attacking my bishop. And if I draw back, for example, it's a draw already, according to the engine. You know which move wins here after king c6? So king c6. I actually did not see this during the game. That's why I wanted to go bishop b8 first and then king e7, which is a sensible idea. But this wins because I have d5 here. Wow, I just saw it on the engine. I did not see it during the game. So the idea is that if she takes, d4 is coming. And she could not stop both pawns. d3, bishop f4, and I can go h2. And if she takes, d2 is coming and d1 queen. Wow, I didn't see this during the game. So even that would be winning. Of course, bishop b8 is more precise, not allowing any of the complications like this. So yeah, she probably realized after bishop c7 that I want to go bishop b8 and run my king. She realized it, I think, which is why she decided to try f6, but it doesn't work because now I go bishop d8, attacking this pawn, and once it moves to f7, I go bishop e7. Very nice maneuvers by the bishop. I know it's not very modest to praise oneself, but I think this is a deserved praise. By the way, here you should be very precise when she goes f6. If I go king e8, white is winning. You know how? King e6. This is complete domination. And whatever I do next, she'll go f7 check. I go here, she goes here, and this is a check. Let me show it, for example. Let's see, this, check, and now bishop f4. Bishop h6 will be a checkmate. And if I go here, for example, then king e7 and she queens. So yeah, that would have been tragic, losing in such a manner. King e8, of course, never do this. Never allow your opponent to dominate your with his or her king. So here, of course, I don't go king e8. Instead, I go bishop d8. I take in this pawn, she has to advance it, and now I go bishop e7. And she has to still wait. And what do I do now? Bishop f8. Have you ever seen something like this? So my bishop used to be on f6 first. Then it went to e7. Then it went to d8, one square at a time. Then it went to c7, one square at a time. Then it went to d8, one square at a time. Then it went to e7, one square at a time. And then it went to f8. So this was the journey of the bishop. So first from f6 to e7, then from e7 to d8, then to c7. It could have gone to b8 in some variations, but in this variation it went back to d8, then back to e7, and then back to f8. So this zigzags like Pac-Man, I think, right? So yeah, but not taking anything just yet. So the idea of bishop f8 is that I want to free this e7 square for my king. This is exactly what happened. And I go king e7 here. Of course, she can take with check, but I calculated that this is winning for me because I take this pawn. She cannot take on f8 because h2 will come and she will be lost. So she has to drop back. And now I take her b pawn. And yes, she can grab my b pawn. And I will be left with just h pawn. And I go king e6. And theoretically, if she manages to give up this bishop, but run with the king to f1, this will be a draw, because this square is light squared, and my bishop is dark squared. And the dark squared bishop with the h-pawn is not winning if the king manages to run to f1 or h1. But this is not the case here. She does not manage to run away. I go bishop d6. I take in this bishop. She cannot trade because then I'll queen. So her only move is bishop g1. And now I'm go king d5. And her king is completely restricted in its movement. So it cannot go to f1. It cannot help the bishop. And I will just march with my king. She will have to retreat with the bishop, and then h2 will come. And there is no stopping that. So for example, if king cannot go to b4, king cannot go to c4. If king a4, king e4, and she's not in time. The bishop has to move, and h2, h1 queen. This is what would have happened. Instead of going to a4, she decided to go to b6, and here I could have implemented the same maneuver, king e4, and I'm first, but I decided to finish the game off with style, bishop c5 check. Chess.com gives this move a brilliant mark to exclamation points, but actually it's like very easy tactics. So deflection. The bishop has to take, and then I go h2, and next I queen. So in this position, after bishop c5 check, she resigned the game because, of course, she saw that. And I get my first win of the tournament against a high-rated opponent. I add some rating points. This is very pleasant, and I hope that you've enjoyed this game. See you in the next recap. Bye-bye.